should probably get it back.
Thank you. You're going to spotlight me first, or just start?
If you go, they'll.
Here we are. Good morning. My name's Ed Olmsted. I'm the president of the Society. Welcome to our worship service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Those values and principles help remind us that we in Northampton inhabit unceded land of the Pecumtuck and Nipmuc peoples. They remind us to acknowledge our responsibility to face the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history, and to affirm and celebrate the legacies that inspire us. If you are new here or returning after a time away, welcome. We're glad you're here. Please feel free to fill out a welcome card, which you can put in the offering plate here on the chancel after the service. Doing this allows us to put you on our email contact list. If you're online, there's a link to the card in the chat. I'd also like to extend a special welcome and thank you to Greg Hayes for providing music this morning. Most of you know that Greg was our music director for many years, and we're always happy to have him back. Later in the service, we'll read names of people important to us who have died in this past year. We invite you to write down their names. There's paper in the pews, and volunteers will collect them during the first interlude. If you're online, you can put names in the chat. Those of you here in person, thank you for wearing your masks. We have KN95 masks in the back for anyone who needs one. When we join in singing our hymns, we ask that those of you here in the Great Hall sing softly. There will be a social hour on Zoom, and everyone who would like is welcome to gather on the lawn after the service if you're in person or if you're nearby. And now we will begin our service.
We gather to remember and mourn, to mourn and remember all our losses, the people, the stories, the loved ones, and the futures that could have been. We gather to do the hard work of facing the difficult realities of our present and our past, where there is conflict, violence, war, and hatred. We gather to rekindle our source of hope for the future by recognizing in one another our shared humanity as we join in a concerted commitment for a better tomorrow. We gather because we need community to do all of this good and hard work. And now please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words to accompany lighting our chalice. In honor of those we have known and loved, in hope that we may be worthy of their memory, we light our chalice, we give our thanks. So a brief explanation for why we have singers up front. That is, the mics are live to the Zoom feed and not to the hall. And so in order for the people on Zoom to really hear the music, we have singers singing at the mics, and we do that every Sunday. We have different volunteers every Sunday. So that's why we're doing that, if it looks a little odd. It's part of the way we're managing what we're calling multi-platform services these days. So Memorial Day is celebrated in the United States the last Monday of May each year. It began as a holiday to celebrate and honor Civil War dead, but it has become a day when people honor and remember loved ones who have died. And as you know, this week there was another horrific mass shooting, leaving 26 children and their teachers dead in Uvalde, Texas, a week after the racially motivated shooting in Buffalo that killed at least 10 people. Today, we are going to share readings and reflections on some of the feelings associated with this weekend of remembering and confronting loss, feelings of grief and sorrow, feelings of joy, feelings of gratitude, and of regret. And as Ed said earlier, later in the service, we'll read names of people important to you who have died in the past year. We invite you to write down your names on the pieces of paper in the pews, and volunteers will collect them towards the end of the interlude. Greg chose our music today in concert with the themes, and the prelude was composed by Felix Mendelssohn's beloved sister, Fanny. He composed the music that you'll hear after we read the names in 1847, which was the year she died, and he died not long after that. Now I have a reading by Sherman Alexie from his book, The Business of Fancy Dancing. It's called Indian Boy Love Song Number 1. Everyone I have lost in the closing of a door, the click of the lock, is not forgotten. They do not die, but remain within the soft edges of the earth, the ash of house fires and cancer, in sin and forgiveness, huddled under old blankets, dreaming their way into my hands, my heart, closing tight like fists. This reading comes from an Italian friar of the Franciscan order who was also an architect and a scholar. His name was Fra Giovanni Giodondo. And this is from a letter he wrote. The gloom of the world is but a shadow. Behind it, yet within our reach, is joy. There is radiance and glory in darkness, could we but see. And to see, we have only to look. I beseech you, look. Life is so generous a giver, but we, judging its gifts by their covering, cast them away as ugly or heavy or hard. Remove the covering and you will find beneath it a living splendor woven of love by wisdom with power. Welcome it, grasp it, and you touch the angel's hand that brings it to you. Life is so full of meaning and purpose, so full of beauty beneath its covering, that you will find earth but cloaks your heaven. Have courage then to claim it. Courage and the knowledge that we are pilgrims together, wending through unknown country home. And now please rise in body or spirit. Sing softly if you're in the hall. Sing loudly if you're at home, so we can hear you in our hearts. We'll sing together hymn number 38, Morning Has Broken. Time for greeting, and we urge you to turn around and say hello to everyone online. Everyone online, you can, if you turn on your gallery view, we can see you all. Good morning. So wonderful to see you. Everyone in the hall, everyone online. Oh, Craig Driesen and Diane are now in New Hampshire. Hi, everyone. Sally Lawton, Rick. I don't know where you are, but it looks sunny. Rick King, Peggy Mish. Oh, now I see the hall again. I can't see people. Who else is there? Connor, welcome Connor, Harriet, Sydney Landau. These are people who don't live right around the corner. Stephen, Teresa, Kathy, Flora, Lucy B., and Kamala. Naomi from France, or Germany. Ginny, Jane, Larry Perellis, good to see you all. Good to see you all. It's so wonderful for you to be here. And now we're going to do something else. All right, it's been good to see you all. Please remember to turn off your videos if you're online. Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in our greater community. Half the proceeds now of every week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. So we have an offering plate on the chancel. If you want to put a check or a little donation in there at the end of the service, that's lovely. You can also mail in a check. You can also donate online, and Rebecca will put the link in the chat. And now, you are welcome to join us as we, for singing the offertory music, and the music and the words are in the Teal hymnal. It's 1048 in the Teal hymnal. You're very welcome to join us. Please do. I invite you to join me as a prelude to reading our names, to join in the responsive reading that is printed. It's on the screen and is printed in your order of meeting. I'll read the regular type, and I invite you to read the italics. It is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in living. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. These are the people we carry with us. Gary Helderman, Richard Arvid Johnson, Douglas Speed, Kathy Solomon, the children and teachers of Uvalde who died in their classroom, the supermarket shoppers in Buffalo, all the victims of gun violence, all those killed in this year's wars.
Paul Farmer, Paul Bacon, Nancy Klimzak, Eileen Mayer, Grandpa, Eugene Poverk, Alicia Morton, Nancy Griffith, Christian Revert, David P. Stevens.
Connie Neary, Thomas Neary, Patricia Neary Stewart, Katie Neary, Martha Herman, Al Herman.
Patty McLaughlin, Cricket. Eric Goldscheider, Kaylee McGovern, Pete Casares, Marty Nathan, Paula Green, Harry Spencer, Derry Shellcross, Lee Ross, Richard Lincoln, Claudia Ryan, Charles Brocknian, Jonathan Simons, Richard Lincoln, Sherry Kurtz, Sarah Newton, Nancy Dunlap, Charlie Simpson, Thelma Hamilton, Ron Johnson, June English,
Marina Smith, Joan Elvers Fahey, Jeffrey Ducal, and Sadie Crew. Let's take a moment and hold these names in our hearts as we honor their memory. Krishana Haynes, Rhonda Thompson, Tom Bine, and Jules Swenson. I'm going to read the poem that was published in yesterday's New York Times, It was written by Amanda Gordon. She called it Everything Hurts. Everything hurts. Our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days while at the same time blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know what must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange. But only when everything hurts, may everything change. Please join in singing together number 123, Spirit of Life. Now we have two readings on the theme of regret. This is from Emily Dickinson. Remorse is memory awake. Remorse is memory awake. Her company's astir, a presence of departed acts at window and at door. Its past set down before the soul and lighted with a match. Perusal to facilitate and help belief to stretch. Remorse is cureless, the disease not even God can heal, for 'tis his institution, the complement of hell. And this is unsung by Jessie Bell Rittenhouse. The songs I have not sung to you will wake me in the night and hover in the dark like birds whose wings are tipped with light, like birds with restless, eager wings that quiver for their flight. The songs I have not sung to you will wake me in the night. The rest of us appreciate it too, Nylena. That's Nylena in the back, showing her appreciation for Greg's music. The songs I have not sung to you will wake me in the night. Regret, remorse. Emily Dickinson calls remorse God's institution, the complement of hell. She was educated at the Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, which of course was the predecessor to Mount Holyoke College. She was there when Mary Lyon, the founder, was its head. And that school was very much associated with New England Congregationalism. The students were required to participate in revivals, and they were encouraged to profess their faith, which meant that they knew they were or felt themselves to be one of the chosen, that they knew that they were saved. And Dickinson never did that. She never professed, despite pressure then and later. So we can speculate what she really thought. And the middle verse of that poem in particular is, I can't figure it out. So her poems can be hard to interpret. Sarah probably can. But she's often tongue-in-cheek and very ironic. I think it's her deeply ironic way of saying that remorse is a painful and just inescapable part of our lives. We all make mistakes, and most of us at some point and in some ways fail to live up to expectations others have for us. Many of us fall short, some of the time at least, of the expectations we set for ourselves. If the person we have disappointed or harmed is still living, it can be possible to ask for forgiveness or try to repair the harm. But once someone is gone, there is no second chance. Death ends the possibility of asking forgiveness or resolving to do better. And remorse at times for some people can be a cureless disease. The songs we have not sung will wake us in the night. So I've been thinking about my own mother off and on. Her name was Alice. She died in July of 2020. Not of the pandemic, but I blame the pandemic. She was in a skilled nursing facility that, of course, went on lockdown once the pandemic started. And between the middle of March and nearly the end of June, I saw her only through a window. And it really baffled her and upset her that I couldn't come in. She had trouble using the phone. She had trouble following conversations. And staff did their best to spend time with the residents, but the group activities had been canceled, and they weren't allowed in the common areas. So everyone was really largely restricted to their rooms, and for most of the day, my mother was alone. And those visits, seeing her through the window, they baffled and frustrated her, and they really upset and frustrated me, and I didn't go as often as I could or should have, which for me now is a source of sorrow and remorse and regret. My mother Alice's death certificate cites end-stage dementia as the cause of death, which is an absolutely meaningless phrase. I don't care what you people in the medical profession think. It's meaningless. And I know in my heart that she lost her will to live, and her body just followed suit. So there are many different flavors of regret as we remember those who have died. There's regret for what they are missing now. There is regret for differences left unresolved, for forgiveness neither asked nor offered. And there's regret for the times we feel we haven't done all we could have done, how we have fallen short. Last May, we gathered to bury Alice's ashes in a cemetery in Melrose, Massachusetts, which is where my grandfather grew up. The only people present were my siblings and their spouses, my niece and nephew, my husband Booker, and our younger son Elliot. And I was lucky in that my good friend and colleague Phyllis, who had known my mother well, did a graveside service. She reminded us that Alice had lived for a very long time, that the last few months were just one very short part of it. She affirmed Alice's love and pride in all of us, her strong liberal values, her dedication as a teacher, her generosity, her many interests. And that was very helpful. It helped with a shift, I think, for all of us. And at the end of this March, as many of you know, I had a 2-month sabbatical spanning over March and April, and we spent about a week in Italy, in Florence, where we hadn't been before. And most of the buildings and the streets in the center of Florence go back to the Middle Ages or the Renaissance. It's amazing how the downtown of the city has basically been unchanged for nearly 500 years. And I thought of my mother often when we were there, because I would remember visits. She and I used to make visits together to museums in Boston and Cambridge, and I thought about how she loved to travel, how happy she would have been to see what we were seeing and to hear about what we were seeing and doing, and to see the latest pictures of our son Dan and his family, especially her wonderful grandson, Caleb. So there is gratitude along with the regret. And it's a reminder to me that we need to be gentle with ourselves. It's good to remember. It's good to take stock, and it's also good to be gentle with ourselves. I don't have it now, but in the poem that I read last week from Amanda Gorman, she says something like, "We find those we are lost, all our someones summoned softly. All our someones summoned softly." And in that summoning, we can find memories. Yes, Nylena. We can find memories that give us peace and hope. We can be grateful and remember to be grateful. We have lost, and we go on in gratitude. May it be so. And now, please join together in singing hymn number 323, "Break Not the Circle." Oh, as you go out into this beautiful day, may you be gentle with yourselves and one another. May you touch the hand of the angel that brings the gift. Go in peace.